friends, welcome to Beautifully Bookish Bethany. In today's video I'm going to be talking about my reading plans for April. So sadly, this is the second time I'm filming this video because I accidentally deleted all the footage for my TBR. It's fine. It happens. This is like the behind the scenes of doing YouTube. Okay, so in this video, I'm going to talk about all the books that I am planning to read in the month of April. In a bit of a departure from my usual organization, the first book I want to highlight that I'm planning to read this month is a book that was already on my 2021 TBR of sci-fi fantasy books and classic books that I want to read. However, specifically in light of the recent attack that led to the tragic and horrifying deaths of Asian women, I also think this is a great time to be reading and highlighting Asian authors and doing whatever you can to work against anti-Asian sentiment and racism. In the video description down below, there is a link to a bunch of resources that you can use to further educate yourself and work against anti-Asian sentiment and racism, and I hope you will take advantage of those. So the first book that I'm planning to read in the month of April is A Hero Born by Jin Yang. This is a modern classic of Chinese fantasy that was originally published in the 1950s and has more recently been translated into English. It has been a big bestseller and it's one that I'm interested in reading. It's a family saga that involves kung fu and I think some kind of magical fantasy elements. I don't know a ton about the story, but I've heard a lot of good things about it and I'm definitely looking forward to reading it this month. And I hope that some of you guys will also pick up books by Asian authors, highlight them. I have a couple more on this TBR that you're going to see later on, but I think it's important to uplift those voices in our community, and I want to stand in solidarity with Asian members of our book community who have been hurt or harmed by the things that have been going on recently, as well as recognize the microaggressions that you face on a regular basis. I have friends who've talked to me in the past about things that they've faced, and I've seen a lot of it on social media, and I think this is something that we do need to be aware of, we do need to talk about and work against, because it is not okay. Yeah. And I do want to just briefly say, if you're watching this and wondering why are you talking about something political, this is a book channel, just keep it to the books. I would say that life is political, reading is political, and you know, if you follow this channel for any length of time, you're going to know that that is something I do here. I'm going to talk about things that I think are important. So I hope you will avail yourself of the resources down below, be aware of what's going on, be sensitive to the people who have been hurt by it, and listen to what people are saying, but don't ask invasive questions. So. Okay, let's move on. The next book I'm going to be reading is the pick for our Patreon book club. Every month my patrons get to vote on a book that they want us to read together based on a specific genre. So every month we have a different genre. For April it was fantasy, and the book that everybody voted on was The Way of Kings by Brandon Sanderson. Woo! So yes, it's okay. This is on my list of also of books that I wanted to get to this year. It's 1,000 pages long, you guys. I do also have the audiobook, so I'm probably going to be doing a blended read, but it's 1,000 pages long. It's going to be a beast, but we're doing it. We're tackling it. We're going to talk all about it. I've read other things by Brandon Sanderson in the past and have enjoyed them, so I'm hoping I will like it. We will see, but that is the book club pick. It's what y'all voted on, so we're doing it. Every month my patrons are also entered into a raffle, and the winner gets to pick a book they want to see me read and review in the coming month from my existing TBR. This month the winner was Amy, and the book she wanted me to read is Amelia Unabridged by Ashley Schumacher. So this was kindly sent to me from my friend Isabella, and it does sound like something that could be interesting. It's a YA contemporary with some magical elements to it. It follows an 18-year-old girl who is obsessed with this fantasy author. Her and her best friend are both planning a trip to go and meet this author and get their book signed by her when her best friend passes away. So I think this is the story of her trying to track down the author anyway, and also falling in love with a boy and dealing with grief. I've heard some like good things about it here and there, so definitely interested to give this one a try. I will be reading this one in April. The next 3 books I'm going to be reading are for all of the book clubs and read-alongs that I am participating in, because I'm kind of doing a lot of them right now, but I'm very excited about all of them. First, myself and Ashley from Bookish Realm are hosting a Song of the Lioness Quartet read-along. So for April, we're going to be reading The Woman Who Rides Like a Man by Tamora Pierce. So far, it's been a whole lot of fun. I love this series a lot, and it's been great. So we're going to be continuing on reading book 3. Then the Indigenous Romance read-along is the thing where we are reading a romance novel by an Indigenous author every month between March and August. So for April, the book is Seducing His Secret Wife by Robin Covington. It's part of the Harlequin Desire line. These are a little melodramatic and soapy, but they're fun, and also they're pretty short. They're just, this one's like a little over 200 pages, so an easy one to dive into if you want to give it a try. This one follows a hero who goes on a trip to Las Vegas and gets it on with his best friend's younger sister, and then they have an impromptu wedding ceremony, but it's a secret and no one knows. So it should be fun, like silly probably, but fun. And then lastly, the Blades and Bodice Rippers book club is something that I do along with my friends Mara from Books Like Whoa, Leanna from Leanna's Library, and Amanda from The Naughty Librarian. April, it was my turn to pick our book club pick, which means that the live show for that is going to be on my channel. Actually, all of these live shows will be on my channel. So information will be down below as far as like when that will be for the things that I have that information for. But the book club pick for this month is going to be A Heart of Blood and Ashes by Mila Vane. I have had this on my TBR for a while, and I'm really interested to see how it goes. It's an adult fantasy romance with a barbarian, and sounds like it's got some kind of wild stuff in it, but I am looking forward to it. So we're going to be reading this in April and discussing at the end of the month. In April, I'm also doing a couple of buddy reads. First up is a nonfiction title that I'm going to be reading with my friend Izzy from Happy for Now, and she actually bought me this book and wanted to read it herself, so I was like, hey, let's buddy read it because I've been wanting to read it. This is Disfigured on Fairy Tales, Disability, and Making Space by Amanda Leduc. It's not super long, but I hear really great things about this, and I do think it's important to continue to learn and grow and better understand the experiences that different people have and how that's reflected in the stories that we tell. I've heard fantastic things about this book and am definitely looking forward to reading it. And then myself and my friend Leanna from Leanna's Library are going to be rereading, this is a reread for both of us, a book from a series that everybody loves to hate. This is Stone of Tears by Terry Goodkind, book 2 in the Sword of Truth series. Yes. And if you want to know our thoughts on this series and on this book, you can check out a podcast episode that will be forthcoming. We're doing this reread in preparation for doing a podcast episode talking about the Sword of Truth series and perhaps defending the books that everybody loves to hate. Not the author, but the books. So that's going to be an interesting one. Then another nonfiction title that I want to get to in April, especially because I have the audiobook from Libro FM. Thank you so much to them. But this is 400 Souls, A Community History of African America from 1619 to 2019. Excuse my very noisy children in the background. This is what happens when I have to like refilm a video, it's fine. But this is edited by Ibram X. Kendi and Keisha N. Blaine. I've heard such good things about this. I love everything Ibram X. Kendi works on, and this is interesting because these are all of the people who worked on writing parts of this book. Each person was given a 5-year span of time to write about, and it is the history of African America. So I am definitely looking forward to this and planning on reading it in April. And then the final physical book that I'm going to put on this TBR is an advance copy that was sent to me for review from Onway Press. Onway is this really cool small press based in the UK that focuses on publishing books by marginalized authors. This book is Dream Country by Ashaya Brown, and here is the beautiful cover. Ooh, very nice. They reached out to me and I was like, yeah, sure, send it to me. It sounds cool. It's coming out in April, so I'm hoping to read this ahead of the release date, which is like April 24th or April 27th, something like that. It says, a sibling rivalry to fuel your worst nightmares. Triplet gods of sleep, dreams, and nightmares. Suspects in their own mother's murder. Separated by deadly gates of horn and ivory. But what happens when the gates collapse? So this is a YA fantasy that sounds really interesting. Thank you to Onway for sending over a copy, and I will be reading that in April. Alright, so before I get to my NetGalley EARCs, I will just mention that I have 4 other physical books on my TBR that I cannot tell you about because they are for my 3rd installment of doing a Booktuber TBR Swap video, which should be really fun. This time I'm doing it with my friend Leanna from Leanna's Library. So I sent her 4 books to read, she sent me 4 books to read, and we will be reading those and vlogging that. So that's also part of my TBR for the month. I am not going to tell you what those books are, but I will say one thing. this is going to be when I read my first Stephen King book. So stay tuned. And it was probably not the book I expected to be reading first from him, so it should be interesting. With that said, let's go ahead and talk about my EARCs from NetGalley. Those are digital review copies. First up, we have Cool for the Summer by Dahlia Adler. This is a YA contemporary rom-com featuring a bisexual teen girl in a love triangle with a boy and a girl. It sounds like it's going to be a fun one. We'll see how it goes. YA contemporaries and YA romances are a little hit and miss for me, but I'm feeling hopeful about this one. Next up, we have Tokyo Ever After by Amiko Jean. This one is another YA contemporary that's being pitched as Crazy Rich Asians meets The Princess Diaries, which sounds freaking amazing because I love both of those properties and it sounds really interesting. It follows a Japanese American girl who discovers that she may actually be a Japanese princess. Sounds like a lot of fun. Early reviews look good. I'm definitely looking forward to this one. By the way, all of these are May releases, and given where we're at in the month, probably a couple of the EARCs I was planning on reading in March are gonna get rolled over into April, so like there could be some fluctuation in what this looks like, but this will at least give you a pretty good idea. After that, we have A Master of Jinn by P. Djeli Clark. This is his first full-length novel, and it is set in the same world as A Dead Jinn in Cairo. So far, I'm hearing like decently good reviews, not necessarily rave reviews, but like decently good reviews. I'm curious to see how he does with a full-length book, but so far I've been really loving his writing. Then we have Etherbound by E.K. Johnston. She is known for writing some of the Star Wars books, and this is a YA sci-fi adventure of some sort. I don't remember a lot of the details, but I know it looked like fun and I love the cover. Next up, I've got The Soulmate Equation by Christina Lauren. This is Christina Lauren's next romantic comedy, and I think the premise of this one involves matchmaking based on DNA, which sounds really interesting, so I'm curious to see how this one goes. Then I was so thrilled when I got this ARC, but I have How to Find a Princess by Alyssa Cole. Y'all know I love Alyssa Cole, and I think this might be her first full-length sapphic romance. I know she's done like novellas and short stories, but I don't think she's done a full-length novel before, and so that should be really interesting. Before I get to this, I really do need to finish reading How to Catch a Queen. I started it and then I've been sidetracked because I've had so many other things to read, but I am going to attempt to finish this before I dive into the next book in the series. Also, how great is that cover? It's beautiful. And the final book that I'm officially putting on my TBR for April is In the Ravenous Dark by A.M. Strickland. I am so hyped for this because a couple years back they published Beyond the Black Door and I loved it. It was so good, and this sounds pretty amazing. I'm just gonna read you like the first line of the description. A pansexual blood mage reluctantly teams up with an undead spirit to start a rebellion among the living and the dead. This sounds great. I'm very excited for it. I know I really like their writing and I think this is going to be a whole lot of fun. So there you go. Those are all the books I'm officially putting on my TBR. I will probably read other things as well, but I'm not going to commit to them. We'll see how the month goes because I always like say I'm going to do things and then I'm pretty good about getting to most of them, but like it somewhat depends. Talk to me in the comments down below. Let me know your thoughts or feelings on anything I talked about in this video. And for your question of the day, let's like take this full circle and say, recommend to me a book by an Asian author that you think is fantastic and people should go and read. I hope you guys will check out all of those comments down below and go and buy some of those books. If it sounds up your alley, you could even go pre-order Tokyo Ever After, and the links for all of these books are always in the video description down below. If you guys like this video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe if you want to see more, and if you want to support the work of the channel, check out the Patreon linked down below, or check out channel memberships if you want to get sneak peeks at all of my upcoming video projects. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.